Hi, I'm Edward Dunnigan, and I'm partnering with the Bund Education. Welcome back to our course on close reading Macbeth. In our first section, we talked about Shakespeare's biography, Shakespeare's English, and a little bit about the literary background of Macbeth, or in other words, the literary period out of which it's born. In our second section, we're going to be shifting our focus to Macbeth itself, and we're going to lay the foundations for a more and more analytical and sophisticated reading of Macbeth, which we're going to approach step by step throughout this course. So, in today's lesson, we're going to be asking ourselves some really important questions. What are the circumstances that surround the publication and the staging of Shakespeare's play, Macbeth? What main actions and events occur in Shakespeare's play, Macbeth? And this is one of our objectives that I think is going to be crucial for everybody watching the course, because in this second part of our second section, we're going to be summarizing in the simplest way possible the plot of Macbeth. And if today you can understand this very simple and easy summary of Macbeth's plot, then later when we do a more detailed synopsis and an analysis, you're going to have an easier time following what we're going to be talking about. And thirdly, we're going to introduce some of the main characters of Shakespeare's Macbeth, and as you'll see, we're going to be focusing on the relationship between different characters. So let's go ahead and let's get started. First of all, Shakespeare probably wrote Macbeth in 1605 or 1606. Now, we're not 100% certain, but this is the consensus that scholars have kind of agreed on. Secondly, Macbeth was probably first performed for James I in 1606. So James I, if you remember from our last lesson, he begins his reign in 1603, and Shakespeare's acting company becomes named the King's Men, which is kind of an indication of how James I was a supporter of drama and of the literary arts, and Shakespeare found favor with him. And so we believe that Macbeth was probably first performed for James in 1606. Thirdly, Macbeth dramatizes the story of a real 11th century Scottish king named Macbeth. So Macbeth really existed, as we mentioned in our last lesson. Right? He was a real king. And Shakespeare learned about Macbeth, scholars believe, in a popular historical text called Holinshed's Chronicles. And the full name of this text was Holinshed's Chronicles of the Kings of England, Scotland, and Ireland. Right? So Shakespeare would have read this text, and many of his contemporaries would have read this text, and he kind of learns about Macbeth and the details of his life, and he rearranges them in literary fashion to make them more compelling and more dramatic, and brings them to the stage in Macbeth. Something interesting would be to think about how are the facts in Macbeth different from the facts as presented in this historical text. That's something you could do further research on for a presentation in school, for example. Fourthly, although Macbeth deals with a real historical subject, as we learned in our first section, Macbeth is classified as a tragedy, not as a history, in the first folio. And you'll remember the first folio is the 1623 publication of many of Shakespeare's plays. And finally, Macbeth is Shakespeare's shortest and arguably darkest tragedy. Right? Now, one of the reasons why we've begun with Macbeth, and Macbeth is often studied in high school as opposed to Lear or Othello, which both of them are studied in high school but not quite as popularly, is because plot-wise, Macbeth is a little bit simpler, but as we're going to see, there's a lot of depth in Macbeth, like in all of Shakespeare, and plenty of room for analysis. In terms of its darkest tragedy, as we're going to see as we go through the play, there's an element of the supernatural, right? In other words, we have witches, we have dark magic almost operating in Macbeth, and this casts a very dark, evil, ominous atmosphere throughout our reading of the entire play. Okay, so this is just some facts about Shakespeare's Macbeth and the circumstances surrounding its publication.